Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 19th September 2021. And today we are going to discuss 8 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So yesterday I said I will discuss a World Trade Organization, that is agreement on agriculture. That is the thing yesterday I left, and I said I will be covering in a separate lecture, but I planned to discuss that topic in this today's lecture itself. So now let us try to see the list of the topics we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first topic, it is about World Trade Organization regarding agreement on agriculture. So this topic is very important from economy. So if you completed your static syllabus, reading static syllabus either by NCERTs or through some standard books like Sanjeev Verma and Lamesh Singh, so you will come across this topic. So this topic is at most important. And next topic we are going to discuss, it is about Indianizing legal system. So what is this Indianization of our legal system? So we are going to have a new things. We are going to discuss some new things, and it is a new topic actually. So this is a thing which mainly said by our CJI. So this topic will be important from polity, which comes in the GS paper 2. And next topic we are going to discuss about this dengue. So this dengue has become a cause of concern now because of serotype 2. So this serotype 2 of this dengue is one of challenging task for government. So we are going to discuss that, and this will be important from our health point of view, which comes under GS paper 2. And next topic is about meeting eyes. So whenever two persons are talking, eye contact will plays an important role. So whenever we are discussing, sometimes my eyes will be becoming dilate and sometimes constricted, right? So because of this, so it will be happening what is the thing which we are conversing, okay, between two people. So based on that, sometimes eyes will dilate and sometimes eyes will constrict. So this is the thing which mainly said in this article. So what is the role of eye contact? So this is important from science and technology, which comes in the GS paper 3. And next topic is about substitute of single-use plastic. So actually we are facing one important problem regarding this plastic pollution. So mainly to beat that, one important new thing which mainly come into picture, that is one of substitute of the single-use plastic, and it is a biodegradable thing. So this is very important from our science and technology, even environment and ecology, which comes under GS paper 3. And next topic we are going to discuss, it is about booster dose. So why booster dose? Because World Health Organization says that there is inequity that is seen in these vaccines. That means some countries, they are already completed their vaccine and they gave approval for booster dose, but in some countries they didn't even completed their basic vaccination. So because of this, here we can see there is a lot of inequity in vaccines, okay. So this will be important again from science and technology regarding this booster dose. And next one is Alzheimer's disease. So now and then this Alzheimer's disease will be seen in news, okay. So you can expect a question regarding this Alzheimer's disease in your prelims. So this will be important from your science and technology, which comes under GS paper 3. And next topic is about gut and brain. So in gut means nothing but our digestive system, right? So our digestive tract, especially in small intestine and large intestine, we can see it is a host for a number of bacteria. So this article mainly says that especially this Klebsiella bacteria, which is having some link to brain damage, especially that is seen in premature birds. So this is important from science and technology. So these are some important topics now we are going to discuss. So let's get started with our discussion, and let us see the first topic, that is agreement on agriculture. So you can get a question like, so recently agreement on agriculture is seen in news. So it is related to World Trade Organization, that is WTO. So in this way you can expect a very simple questions in your prelims. So now let us try to see why this is in news. So recently what happened? Recently, while addressing this G33 virtual informal ministerial meeting. So in this meet, our India's government of India's ministry, that is Commerce and Industry Minister, our Commerce and Industry Minister, he mainly pointed out there are some imbalances. So where are these imbalances? Imbalances in his AOA, Agreement of Agriculture, at WTO. So recently G33 virtual informal meeting held. In that meeting, our India's Commerce and Industry Minister, he pointed out there are some imbalances in this agreement on agriculture at WTO. So because of this is in news. And if you're talking about details, it mainly says that here it mainly claimed that it was in favor of developed countries. So here our minister mainly claimed that this agreement on agriculture, which is mainly favoring developed countries. And we are also seeing some historic asymmetries and even imbalance are seen in this agreement on agriculture. So we need to correct all those imbalances such that finally we can ensure rule based, free and equitable trade, equitable order. So this is the thing which mainly said by our minister. So if you're talking about some important note, so what is the aim of this agreement on agriculture? So this agreement on agriculture, it is mainly talking about to remove trade related barriers, and finally we need to promote transparent market access and even integration of global markets. So what is the aim? It is to promote transparent market access. So there is an easy access for the products, and even there is a need of integration of global markets. So here if you see this World Trade Organization's Agriculture Committee, which mainly oversees the implementation of this agreement and provides a forum for the members to address related concerns. So here World Trade Organization's Agriculture Committee, so it is mainly overseeing about the implementation of this agreement on agriculture, and this committee will also provides further forum for members that will helps to mainly to address some of the important related concerns regarding this agreement on agriculture. So if you're talking about three pillars of this AOA, so first one, it is about domestic subsidies. Second one, it is about market access. So whether there is a proper market access is there or not, and even it is focusing on domestic subsidies, or we can also talk about export subsidies here, and even domestic support. So why domestic support means here government will give some support to improve production. And if you're talking about export subsidies, means government it is giving support or subsidies to increase the export of produce. And next one is market access, means for the goods and services there is a proper market access present or not. So these are the three important pillars of this agreement on agriculture. So if you're talking about one by one, the first one is domestic subsidy. So if you're talking about this domestic subsidy, which mainly calls, or domestic support, it mainly calls for reduction in domestic subsidies that distorts free trade and fair price. So here agreement on agriculture mainly says that whatever the domestic subsidies which are given by the government, that need to be reduced. So what is the relationship between the subsidies and as well as international trade means? So let me change the pen and I will explain you. For example, let us take 1 kg of rice. So let us take this hypothetical example. 1 kg of rice, it is rupees, let us take 100 rupees for basmati rice. So for 1 kg of basmati rice, it is 100 rupees now. But what happened, government want to increase the produce and it want to increase its exports means, so government will be giving some subsidies for the farmers, right? Subsidies for sugar, subsidies for seeds, and also subsidies for fertilizer, and also it is providing some transportation subsidies, so and so. And what have, because of this domestic support or the government support, here the price of this same rice which mainly decreased to rupees 60, rupees 60 because of some subsidies which is given by government. So it is in the scenario of country 1. If you see in the country 2, government is not providing any subsidy, any support to the farmers. Here the cost of the same 1 kg of rice is 100 rupees here. So when this rice of 1 kg from country 1 and the same rice from the country 2, they are coming into international market. So in this market, the same rice it is coming. So country 1 rice and country 2 rice. So country 2 rice it is rupees 60 per kg and country 1 rice is rupees 100 per kg. So because of this, if I am going to this international market to buy this 1 kg of rice, obviously I will take this country 1's rice which is of rupees 60 rather than country's 2 rice of rupees 100 for the same rice for same quantity, right? So here, because of whenever government is giving support or subsidies here, it mainly distorts free and fair trade in the international market. So because of this agreement on agriculture mainly says that governments, that is domestic governments, they need to reduce this subsidy because it is mainly distorting free and fair trade in international market. Okay, so under this provision, it mainly says that here this support, it is to be reduced by 20% over a period of 6 years by the developed countries and 13% over a period for 10 years by developing countries. So here developed countries, they need to decrease 20% for 6 years and developing countries, they need to reduce 13% over the period of 10 years. So already these developed countries, they are already having technology, right? But this developing country, they do not have proper technology and they are in a position, they are in a situation now they are adopting towards technology. So if you are talking about India, we do not have much technology in agriculture. So here we are mainly focusing on increasing of technology in agriculture. So whenever we want to increase the technology, our government need to provide subsidy for sure, because whenever we want to go for adopting of this seeders and even some harvesters or any other instruments, mainly to move towards it moves towards instrumentalization of our agriculture. So government need to provide subsidies. So if government that reduces subsidies, means we will not reach our dream of technology in agriculture. So this is the one cause of concern. That means it is mainly it is somewhat showing some discrimination regarding this developing and as well as least developed countries. So this is the first important pillar. And next one, it is about market access. So if you're talking about the second pillar, that is market access, it mainly says that market access for the goods in WTO means the conditions like tariffs and as well as non-tariff measures, these are to be agreed by members for the entry of specific goods into their market. So for example, let us take about this tariff barriers. Tariff barriers means nothing but custom duties that we are imposing. For example, let us take, this is India. So this is country 1 and this is country 2. Let us take, this is India and this is so and so country 2. Okay. So in India, we are having number of industries. For example, let us take some like agarbatti industry. Okay. Let us take agarbatti industry. So in India, we are producing agarbattis, right? So for example, let us try to take for one packet of agarbatti which is having 100 sticks, it is, let us take rupees 50 rupees. So for rupees 50 rupees we can get one packet of agarbatti which is having 100 sticks. And from the country 2 also we are importing agarbattis. So one packet which contains 100 sticks of agarbatti, now from country 2 we are importing at 25 rupees itself. So in our country it is 50 rupees and if you are taking from other countries it is like 25 rupees. That means if these agarbattis which are flooding into this Indian market means, so this indigenous companies, they will be affected a lot. So if I am going to supermarket here and I want to buy one packet of agarbattis, right? So if you see indigenously produced so and so company which is coming from Kerala or Tamil Nadu, they are providing this agarbattis of 100 stick for packet at rupees 50. But if you are importing the same agarbattis from other countries, but if you see if there is a quality which is high compared to that of indigenous, means it is also rupees at 25. So I will obviously purchase this rather than this. So because of this, indigenous companies, indigenous industries, indigenous factories, they need to close down. Mainly to protect these indigenous companies, Indian government of India will be imposing this custom duty on these imported goods. For example, let us take 20 rupees it is imposing on this packet. Okay, that means overall the cost will be 45 rupees, which is very much near to this 50 rupees, right? So people who want to purchase this, they will purchase this, or if they want to purchase other one, they can purchase other one. So in this way here, if you're talking about trade, tariff duties, okay, tariffs are also plays an important role. For example, custom duty. So this agreement on agriculture mainly says that we need to remove non-tariff barriers, and also we need to convert them into tariff duties. So there are also some non-tariff barriers like phytosanitary measures, so and so. So we need to also remove these non-tariff barriers, and we need to come up with this tariff duties. So market access mainly requires tariffs which are fixed by the individual countries and cut progressively to allow the free trade. So whatever the custom duties we are imposing, and we need to reduce them mainly to improve the trade. So this is the second important thing which mainly said. So first one, it is about subsidies. Second one, it is about we need to decrease these tariffs, and these non-tariff barriers can also be converted into tariff, and later on we need to decrease this tariff duty. So it is also discriminating developing countries. And third pillar here is export duty. So if you're talking about this export duty, subsidy on inputs of agriculture, making exports cheaper, or other incentives for exports such as import duty remission, etc. are included under this export subsidies. So even though yes, government is providing some subsidies and we are increasing our production. So after increasing our production, whatever the leftover thing is present, we are going to export for other countries. So during this export also, government will be giving some export to enhance exports. Government will be giving some schemes, right? So what happened whenever the export duty is also decreasing? So whatever the price after this so and so product entering into international market is very much low. So because of this, it is also affecting the international trade. Okay, so this is the thing which mainly said we should not provide any export subsidy. So these are three important pillars. And in the first pillar, we talked about this domestic support. So in this domestic support, we are having subsidies, and these subsidies are categorized into three boxes: green box, amber box, and blue box. So these are very important from your prelims. Okay, so now let us try to see what is green box subsidies, amber box subsidies, and blue box subsidies. Already you got question from these boxes in your prelims. And if you're talking about first one, that is green box means subsidies that do not distort trade. Okay, there is a minimal distortion that is seen when we are providing, or that is government is providing this green box subsidy. So here under this green box, they mainly comes like government funded and must not involve the price support. Just government will be funding, but it will not have some impact on the price support. They include environmental protection, regional development programs like this. And next one is amber box subsidies. They all are domestic support measures that will mainly distort the production and trade. They will fall under this amber box subsidies. For example, support prices, even subsidies, they are mainly related to the production of the quantities. So it is mainly distorting. So amber box subsidies will be the trade distorting subsidies. And if you are talking about blue box subsidies, this is nothing but amber box with some conditions. So these conditions, they are mainly designed to reduce the distortion in the trade. So these are the three boxes of subsidies. And now let us try to focus on some important facts regarding what is this G33 informal meet that held. So if you're talking about this G33, it is a forum of mainly developing countries which mainly formed during this Cancun Ministerial Conference of WTO. So in this Cancun Ministerial Conference, so here this G33 group which mainly formed, and this group mainly focuses to protect interest of developing countries regarding this agriculture trade negotiations. And if you're talking about India, it is part of this G33, and which is a group of 47 developing and least developed countries. And if you see this G33, which it was created in order to mainly help countries which are all facing similar problems regarding this agreement on agriculture. Okay, so these are some important things that you need to remember regarding this topic. And now let us move on to today's topics. The first one is CJI, Chief Justice of India calls for indigenizing legal system. So it is mainly talking about indigenization of legal system. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2, which comes under our polity. So why this statement which is given by our CJI and when? So if you are talking about context, our CJI, he was speaking at an event which mainly organized by Karnataka Bar Council. So Karnataka Bar Council in Bangalore, which mainly conducted one event. So in this event, our CJI participated and he spoke in that event. And in that event, he gave this statement. So he mainly said that ordinary Indian people, they felt out of place in courts. So ordinary citizens or ordinary Indians, they mainly feel that they are out of this courts where proceedings were lengthy and as well as expensive and even in English. So many local people, they don't understand English, especially from the people from rural areas. So because of this, our CJI mainly said that ordinary Indian felt out of place in the courts, because these courts are lengthy process and even they include many that is much costly because of paperwork and the fee that need to be given to the lawyer, etc. And the proceedings are in English language. So besides, judgments were either too long or technical or managed to be both. So the judgments, they were either too long or technical or managed to be both. So in this condition here, it is mainly away from this Indian or ordinary Indians. So now he said that now it is the time for the courts to wake up from their colonial stupor and face the practical realities in Indian society. So because of this, now these courts, they need to come outside and they need to follow the practical realities. They need to see the practical realities of our Indian society. So in this context, what is the need? How can we address this challenge? So the need here is we need to go for indigenization of our legal system. So what is the meaning of this indigenization? First of all, indigenization means nothing but rules and procedures of the justice delivery. They should be made very simple and it should be accessible for all Indians, even poor, even rural Indians. They should not scare about the judges or the courts. They need to think twice before approaching the courts. Okay, so what happened earlier? These ordinary people, they are mainly having some fear regarding the lengthy judgment process, and even it is expensive, and also judgment will be given in English. So what happened? So because of this, ordinary, poor and as well as rural Indians, they are mainly out of this judicial system. So because of this, now we need to make rules, procedures of this justice delivery that should be very simple. And next one here is, so ordinary people, poor people, rural Indians, they should not be scared of judges or the courts, or they should not think twice before approaching the courts. So this is the thing which mainly said by our CJI. And now let us try to talk about some important things regarding this indigenization. Indigenization, nothing but we need to adopt practical realities of our society and we need to localize our justice delivery system. And it is one of the important crucial steps that we can make this justice delivery more transparent, and we need to make this justice delivery, it is accessible and as well as even effective. So these are the things. And in this context, our CJ also make a note on this alternate dispute resolution mechanism. So what is this alternate dispute resolution mechanism? So if you have completed your polity, then you will know about what is this alternate dispute resolution mechanism. That is, other than courts, we are also having other processes. So if you see in rural areas especially, there will be the village heads. So whenever there is any, if you have watched many movies, you can see like there will be some alternate dispute resolution mechanism, right? They are not going to courts, but they will be go to the village heads mainly to mainly they will keep some panchayats and they will say that we have so and so problem and we need to come out of this problem. And in this context, the village head people, they mainly resolve this problem. So this is also one kind of alternate dispute resolution mechanism that is especially seen in rural areas, right? So in this alternate dispute resolution mechanism, so mediation is there, that is third person will be involved, and even conciliation, that would go a long way. So whenever we are going for this alternate dispute resolution mechanism, we are also having many advantages. For example, that will helps in reducing the pendency, and even reducing the unnecessary litigation, and as well as it will also save the resources of the people. Okay, so this is about this topic, and I hope it is clear. Now let us move on to the next topic. Title says serotype 2 dengue is a challenge. So this article mainly talking about one important disease, that is dengue disease. Okay, so recently what happened, there are increase in the number of cases of dengue, and increase in the number of people who are admitting in the hospital with this dengue also had been increased. So because of this, it is one of the challenge. And one more challenge here is it is a serotype 2. So this is a serotype 2 dengue, which is one of important challenge. So if you're talking about context, it mainly says that the health ministry has flagged the emergency challenge. Health Ministry has flagged emergency challenge in 11 states. In 11 states across India of serotype 2 dengue. So this serotype 2 dengue, which mainly associated with more cases and more complications than other form of diseases. It is mainly associated with more cases and as well as more complications. So if you're talking about important details, it mainly says that here our health ministry suggested states they need to take some actions like early detection of the cases. So we need to go for early detection of the cases. So to detect these cases, we need to have enough dengue kits. Okay, so like this coronavirus, how we are going for testing. So for the dengue also testing, we will remove the blood samples, and that blood samples we are going to identify antibodies for this dengue. Okay, that is mainly done through this dengue kits. Okay, so these dengue kits are costly actually. I think so before 2 years I also talked with this dengue, and at that time I paid 2,200 rupees to conduct one dengue test. And after that what happened, the government of our district which came up with one decision like to decrease this cost of this dengue test. After once my dengue test is done, after 2 days I think so, they decreased it to rupees 300 per test. Okay, so because of this we need to make available this dengue kits as well. That will be helpful for early detection of the cases. And we need to operationalize fever helplines. So helplines we need to provide, and we need to ensure that there is adequate stocking of testing kits and even larvicides because this dengue, which is mainly caused by Aedes aegypti mosquito, and this will bite in the daytime itself. Okay, so whenever you are getting a mosquito bite on daytime, so it is mostly by this Aedes aegypti mosquito. So here actually this vector of this disease, it is a mosquito. So because of this we need to control the mosquito bites. So we can use this larvicide to kill the larvae of these mosquitoes, and we need to make available of this medicines, and we need to deploy rapid response teams for prompting investigation, and even public health actions we need to take like fever survey and contact tracing and as well as vector control. So these are the steps that we can take. And next one is we need to alert even blood banks. So whenever we are attacking this dengue means dengue fever means, so in our blood the number of or count of this platelet will be decreased. So even it will be less than 10,000 in many cases. So in these conditions, whenever the platelets are decreasing, we need to take this platelet transfusion. So for this platelet transfusion in blood banks, we need to maintain the levels of adequate. We need to maintain stocks of this platelets especially. So this is the thing which mainly said by Health Ministry. And if you're talking about some important facts regarding this dengue which is a mosquito-borne tropical disease which mainly caused by this dengue virus. It mainly belongs to flavivirus family, and this dengue virus which is mainly transmitted by several species of mosquito, that is principally by this Aedes aegypti. And the mosquito also transmits not only this dengue but also other diseases like chikungunya, yellow fever and Zika infection as well. Okay, so there are 4 distinct but very closely related serotypes, mainly includes DEN 1, DEN 2, DEN 3 and DEN 4. Here it is talking about this DEN 2. And next one is if you are talking about vaccine regarding this dengue, whether we are having a vaccine or not. So because of this COVID-19 virus is in news, so vaccines are highly new. So if you are getting any disease in news, means you need to also see whether the vaccine is present or not. For example, hepatitis. In 2019, there was one question regarding this hepatitis virus, and even Nipah virus is in news. So you have to see whether the vaccines are available or not if any disease is in news. So if you're talking about this dengue vaccine, so we are having this dengue vaccine, that is Dengvaxia. So this Dengvaxia has been recently approved by US FDA in 2019, and this vaccine, it is the first dengue vaccine to get regulatory nod from US. Okay, so if you're talking about some details regarding this vaccine, so this dengue vaccine, it is basically live attenuated dengue virus which has to be administered in the people of ages 9 to 16. Okay, so this is about this topic. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says meeting eyes. So this article may talking about especially eye contact. Eye contact during conversation between the two people or two persons. And next one is what is the significance of this study and how can we infer. So this topic is important from our science and technology, which mainly comes under this GS paper 3. So now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that why do we make repeated eye contact while talking? So if you are talking with each other, so you can observe now, like, so how your eye contact is. So if you see some details of this study, which mainly says that according to Dartmouth study, whenever two people they are conversing with each other, their eyes meet in the moments of shared attention with their pupils dilating. So whenever they are in synchrony, that means whenever they are talking about an important thing, so there will be the eye contact, right? So in this eye contact, sometimes the eyes will be dilating and sometimes eyes will be contracting, right? So this is the thing which mainly said in this topic. So when two people they are conversing with each other, eye contact mainly signals the shared attention. So based on this eye contact only, we can see whether that person is interested to talk in this topic or not, whether they are interested or not here. So what happened whenever this eye contact is persisting, synchronicity mainly decreases. So we think that this is a good because too much synchronicity can make conversation very much stale. So whenever the eye contact it is mainly going away, that means whenever we are not synchronizing, then our brain will allow mainly for think about the new thing. So this is the thing. So if you're talking about study which mainly says that whenever eye contact is made when two person is conserving, they are already in sync, and if anything eye contact seems, then help break that synchrony. So to break that synchrony, your eye contact will be very, very important, and eye contact may usually disrupt synchrony. So whenever synchrony it is disrupting means it will be allow for the new thought or new idea in our brain. So this is gist of this topic. That is nothing much important, but you have to understand eye contact will also having some impact on thinking as well. And now let's try to see next topic. Title says IISc researchers, they find a way to substitute for single-use plastic. Actually, we know that India mainly pledged to eliminate the single-use plastic. But already India made this pledge, but here there are not much steps are taken to eliminate or to implement this. So because of this article will be very much helpful to achieve our goal of to eliminate the single-use plastic. So this article will be important from environment and ecology, even science and technology, which comes under GS paper 3. So now let us try to see context. If you see context, it mainly says that by combining of non-edible oils and even cellulose. So this cellulose mainly extracted from agriculture stubble. So from agriculture stubble we are extracting this cellulose and we are mixing with this non-edible oils such that we can prepare biodegradable multi-use polymer sheets. So these sheets that can be used for packing purposes. So if you're talking about details, it mainly says that according to report by CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board of India, which mainly gave some data. So this data is important whenever you are writing your mains answer. Okay. So for the year 2018 to 2019, 2018 to 2019, 3.3 million metric tons. It is about 3.3 million metric tons of plastic waste is generated by Indians. So between 1 year, that is 2018 to 2019, so Indians, they are very much great, and they generated about 3.3 million metric tons of plastic. So now you can understand. So I will be saying you data, then you will be getting shocked. So we are generating about 3.3 million metric tons, and here about 79% of this plastic that will enters into our environment, that is leading to environment pollution, especially this will go into oceans actually. And next one is only 9% of plastic is recycled. See how much pity. See how much bad situation we are in. So 3.3 million metric tons is generated, but out of this only just 9% of plastic is recycled. So all plastic waste, okay, if all plastic waste is recycled, then it will be very much helpful for protecting our environment, but only 9% of plastic is recycled. So if you are talking about some more highlights, it mainly says that, so to address this problem, researchers from this Department of Material Engineering, IISc Bangalore, they found a way to make a substitute for single-use plastic. And it is very much helpful to mitigate the problem of plastic pollution that we are facing now. So from agriculture stubble, and actually you know that from this agriculture stubble also we are having some concerns from our environment point of view. Because whenever we are going for burning of this agriculture stubble, that will also lead to air pollution, and that is leading to bad air quality index, especially in the Delhi during the winter season, right? So if you see about this plastic waste, which mainly causes a type of pollution, and even this agriculture stubble burning, it is also responsible for air pollution in several states. For example, here in Delhi, so agriculture stubble burning, it is one of important cause for bad air quality index in Delhi during this winter season. Mainly to address both the situations, we have a solution here. So research associate working in the labs along with the co-workers, they develop polymers, and these polymers are mainly prepared from a non-edible oil, that means we can't take that oil, and even cellulose. And these polymers, they are modulated into sheets, and these sheets, they have properties, mainly it will be suitable for making bags, cutlery or containers, etc. And these are these are mainly biodegradable, okay, that will not cause any harm, they will be degrading easily in our environment, and also leak proof and even non-toxic. So these are some important advantages. And now let us move on to the next topic. The title says, as US approves booster shots, just 3.5% vaccinated in Africa. So this article mainly talking about vaccine inequity. That means some countries having the access to vaccines, some countries do not have proper access. So here we are comparing with US and as well as Africa. So now let us try to see the central theme of this article. Central theme mainly says that according to this World Health Organization, 8 in 10 African countries, they are mainly missing vaccinating at least 10% of population by end of this month. So by end of this September, 8 of 10 African countries, they are going to miss the target of vaccinating at least 10% of their population. So if you're talking about booster dose means after taking the 2 doses of vaccination, after some time we are going to give again 1 dose of this vaccine. It is a booster dose that will be helpful mainly for the people who are immunocompromised, like elderly people, so and so. So in this context, WHO director mainly highlighted that we are seeing there is a vaccine inequity that is seen especially particularly in Africa. So these are things which mainly said by WHO director, sir. So if you see some data, it mainly says that he also revealed that nearly 6 billion doses are administered globally, and out of this 6 billion, only 2% of doses that had been given in Africa. So first statement here is, so globally 6 billion vaccines are given. Out of this, just 2% of vaccines they are given to Africa, and 80% of vaccination, okay, vaccine administration that is seen in high and as well as upper middle income countries. And even less than 3.5% of people in Africa, they have been fully vaccinated. Okay, so this is about data. And now let's try to see the impact. So whenever there is decreasing of vaccination, what will be the impact? So here, whenever there is a decreasing of vaccination rollout, then there will be the longer vaccine inequity. So that will lead to vaccine inequity, means some countries they are having access and some countries they do not have proper access. And next one is, whenever there is decreasing of vaccination, okay, that will lead to spreading of that virus. Virus keeps circulating and as well as changing into new forms, that is mutations. And longer the social and as well as economic disruption that will continue in that area. That means because of this COVID-19 in that area, they will go for imposition of multiple lockdowns and as well as decreasing or curbing the movement of the people. That will lead to further social and economical imbalances. And next one is, there is also higher chance of more variants. So whenever this virus which is coming or from which is mainly shifting from one person to another person, means that will also leads to formation of mutations. So this mutant virus, they may not effective to this vaccines given which is earlier. So because of this, we need to consider the vaccines. And if I talk about some more data which mainly says that according to UNDP, United Nations Development Program, about 60.1% of people, especially in the high income countries, they have been vaccinated with at least one dose as on September 15th. Okay. So according to this United Nations Development Program UNDP, about 60.1% of people in high income countries, they have been vaccinated with at least one dose on September 15. If you're talking about low countries, low income countries, it is just 13%. If you're talking about high income countries, it is 60.1%. Here you can see this is evident. This data it is saying that yes, there is vaccine inequity, it is persistent. And next one is, WHO has set an ambitious target of vaccinating at least 10% of population of every country by end of September. But it is not a reaching thing, especially in Africa. And next one is, 8 in 10 African countries, they are going to miss this vaccine target of 10% of population by end of this month. And next one is, 42 of 54 African nations. So in these nations, about 80% they are going to miss the target. So this is the data. And if we're talking about promises regarding vaccine supply, so G7 nations mainly promised to share 870 million doses to COVAX, but released just 100 million. So they promised that they are going to release about 870 million doses, but they released just 100 million. And next one is, according to Gavi, as on September 15th, COVAX has so far shipped over 272 million vaccines. So 272 million vaccines they have been shipped mainly to 141 countries through high income countries. Though high income countries they had promised to donate more than 1 billion doses, less than 15% of doses have been materialized. That means according to Gavi, it mainly says that so far about 272 million vaccines they have been shipped to 141 countries. Though high income countries they promised to donate more than 1 million doses, but they donated less than 15% of doses. So in this way, the promises which are given by these high developed countries, they have not been met. And if we are talking about what is the reason why these developed countries they did not meet their promises, because there is an increase in the demand for booster dose in their countries. Okay, so because of this, that led to 25% decrease in the supply of the vaccines to this Africa. So Africa will face shortage of almost 470 million doses in the global year-end target of vaccinating fully 40% of its population. So to vaccinate this 40% of its population, so it is facing a shortfall of 470 million doses. So this is just of this topic. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says gouging Alzheimer's. So this article may talking about this Alzheimer disease. So this will be important from our science and technology, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. So now let us try to talk about the context. If you see context, it mainly says that in Alzheimer's disease, amyloid plaques build up in person's brain for nearly 2 decades, that is 20 years before they are getting the first signs of Alzheimer's disease. So the first signs symptoms of this Alzheimer's disease, we can see there is a forgetfulness. So there is a sometimes even that person will forget their home, their house, their people itself, right? So in this Alzheimer's disease, the first sign we can see there is a forgetfulness. So when we can see this first sign, after this amyloid plaques which are developed in our brain, okay, after 20 years we can see the first symptom or the first signs of this forgetfulness. So this article mainly says that now researchers, they came up with algorithm. So this algorithm mainly published in paper in neurology. So it mainly says that whenever they are going for single brain scan of amyloid and we are connecting, or when we are taking interpretation of their age, then we can yield the estimate of how longer it will take for symptoms to manifest. That means if you are taking this brain scan, then based on this amyloid plaques and which stage they are present, and if you are correlating with the person's age, then we can identify how much time it is present mainly to get the first symptoms of this Alzheimer's disease. So this is the gist. And now let us focus on what is this Alzheimer's disease. So if we are talking about this Alzheimer's disease, which is a neurological disorder. So it is a mainly neurological disorders and which mainly caused because of damage in our brain cells. So brain cells, they will disintegrate and as well as they will die. So because of dying of these brain cells, that will lead to memory loss problems and even some problems in speaking or writing, even poor judgment. And we can also experience there will be change in mood and as well as personality, confusion, etc. So at the first stage, the symptoms will be mild, but they will become serious or severe when the time it is progressing. So Alzheimer's is one of the most common cause of even dementia among the adults. Dementia, nothing but we can say loss of intellectual and as well as social skills that can be seen in the older people. So Alzheimer's is mainly caused because of formation of this amyloid plaques in the brain cells. Okay, so these are some important things that you need to remember. And one more thing is, if you want to cure this Alzheimer's disease, it is an incurable disease, because whenever the brain cells, they once died, means we cannot bring them back. Okay, so this is about this topic. And now let us try to see the next and the last topic of the day, that is about gut and brain. So before saying this, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. So if you want to clear UPSC 2022, we came up with one excellent, highly beneficial and as well as highly economical course, that is current affairs package, plus along with this we are providing mains answer writing practice. So what is this course it is about? So one thing I want to say here is this course is about current affairs along with mains answer writing practice. So one thing I want to say is, before entering into examination hall, you need to know at least 1.5 year current affairs for sure. And this is right time to join this course to cover this 1.5 years current affairs. And this one is mains answer writing practice. So here in this mains answer writing practice, we are providing daily one question. On Sunday there will be essay writing practice. So here if you join this course, you are going to write more than 300 questions and more than 50 essays. So in this way, this course which will offer you a good answer writing practice. And this will be very important to clear your UPSC mains. And not only this, we also provide you prelims practice test on every Sunday, and we provide you video explanation part. So in this way, this course which is designed as per demand of UPSC. So finally, I want to say one thing, please don't take this course as a choice. Try to join this course as soon as possible and achieve your dream of clearing UPSC. So details of this course which is given in description box, so please visit that once. And if you want to talk to me directly, you can call to this number 8074765513. Okay, and now let's come back and let us see the last topic, that is gut and brain. So this article mainly talking about relationship between the gut bacteria and brain damage. So now let us try to see this article. So context mainly says that extreme premature infants. So in this premature infants means before completion of gestation period, the people will the birth of the child will be taking place. Okay, so normal gestation period is 9 months. So before this 9 months, whenever the birth of the children is happening at 7 months or 5 months or even 8 months, like that, means that baby is called as a premature baby, right? So in this extreme, this premature infants, they are very much highly at risk of this brain damage. So how? What is the relation? So new study from Vienna finds that there is a connection between gut microbiome and brain damage. So this microbiome means the bacteria which is present in our gut, especially in the small intestine as well as the large intestine. So an excess of Klebsiella, okay, so an excess of Klebsiella in the gut, which was found to be associated with high presence of certain immune cells, and even it will lead to neurological damage in premature babies. So because of this Klebsiella in the gut, that will lead to increase in the neuronal damage, especially in this premature babies. So what is the significance? Whenever we want to treat with this brain damage, first we need to treat with this Klebsiella. So this is the thing, or this is the significance of this study. So this study mainly suggests that a way even to prevent this damage, mainly we need to control this Klebsiella bacteria first. So this is just of this topic. I hope it is clear. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll to this current affairs package. And this course is going to be ended. Registrations for this course, it is going to be closed by October 1st week. So if you want to join, please hurry up. Thank you so much.